Welcome to Mental Stillness. My name is Derek, and I'm excited that somehow you stumbled across this podcast. One of my goals when starting this podcast was to bring mental health conversations into leadership circles. Today, I get the chance to sit down and chat with Sean Warren. Sean is based down in Atlanta as he works with the Chick-fil-A support center. So he has spent the last 2 decades serving in different ways, and most recently as a director with new restaurant growth. He breaks down a little bit of what that means. But one of the things I absolutely love about Sean is that, like many of the guests that I bring on here, there is an authentic care for people. And that is going to come across very evidently as you hear his story today. I've gotten to serve Sean as his coach in his current season of leadership, and that's been really fun. I get to have conversations with leaders like Sean, and I walk away being re-energized and encouraged. I just love, again, how he sees people, how he views people, and the humility that he brings to every conversation, and just a willingness to get better.
Well, hey, Derek, it's an honor to be with you today, and thanks for the opportunity. My name is Sean Warren. I work for Chick-fil-A, and I work in our new restaurants real estate department, and I have responsibility over our non-traditional restaurant team. So if you think about where Chick-fil-A restaurants show up other than on the street, and maybe in a shopping mall, that's the team that I lead from a real estate development standpoint. So think Chick-fil-A locations in airports and on college campuses and in hospitals and stadiums and arenas and ballparks and theme parks and venues of that nature. That's the team I lead. I am married to Lisa. I recently celebrated our 27th wedding anniversary. We have 3 daughters. Madison, Mackenzie, and Molly. We went with the M thing with the names, and
It's memorable.
They're exactly, yes. And they Madison and Mackenzie are 25, and Molly's 21, and and we're recent empty nesters, and so busy year this year with a wedding with one of my oldest daughters, Mackenzie, back in June, and building a new house, downsizing, and so a lot of life going on right now, certainly in the Warren household with that, and work's busy and work's great. So it's definitely good to be with you.
You're also a golfer, right?
That is a hobby and a passion now. I like to say I used to be more of a golfer than I am today. I had the fortune of playing college golf. I had the fortune of being on a national championship college golf team. Still great friends and very close with those guys going through that experience together today. I just don't get the opportunity to practice and play as much as I used to, but I still am passionate about the game, love the game, and certainly give it my best.
Just have to lower your expectations and reduce the pressure, right?
I do. And that's not easy, right? Because even though I know I don't play like I used to, when you get out there, sometimes I forget. And, today I really honestly enjoy being out there playing as just a way to honestly unplug and, have something to do to clear my mind and exercise and have fun. Right. And so I continually have to tell myself that that's really what I'm out here to do, not to necessarily beat the world when I go out. So.
Well, I have to tell myself that when, I didn't play collegiate, but I've played a couple scrambles, so I'm very different quality of golf. And so, like I said, I've been excited to have you on here for a while, and we're obviously connected and get to talk pretty frequently just about life and leadership. And when I think about leadership, I think about people.
Right.
That's usually the examples I've had in my life that had a significant influence on me. And I did hear at one time, it said, in each of our lifetimes, we're going to influence 10,000 people. It's an amazing number. We get to be on the receiving end of that and, Lord willing, the giving side of that too, and positive influence. And so I would love, what were some of the early examples or some of the healthy examples of leadership?
Well, it's a great question. There's some things that I think about leadership, qualities, aspects of leadership that honestly I could go back to earlier age and say my dad. I think that when we think about leadership, thinking about somebody that will listen, somebody that will kind of challenge you, somebody that will set a great example of what work ethic is, and somebody that you trust, somebody that you want to follow. Those kind of things come to mind, and I have to go back to my dad. My dad did that for me. He was somebody that he passed away back in 2020, and so really miss him. Actually, his birthday was this week, but we just had a great relationship. I think that's another aspect of leadership is knowing your people and really investing in your people. And my dad invested in me. We had a great relationship. I trusted him. He loved me, cared about me, and built that trust to where I felt comfortable sharing with him. He would listen, always made time for me. And so I think that was probably my earliest example of leadership. And I think, as I think about, as I got older and transitioned, into work, I think one or two people come to mind. Certainly, early bosses that I had at Chick-fil-A, a gentleman named Jackson Tell, Barry White, and the things that I think about when I reflect on my time with them. It's been a long time since I worked for them, reported to them. Even they're both retired now. But the thing that sticks for me and why they come to mind is that I knew they cared about me personally. It wasn't just how I did my job. It wasn't just the real estate deal results that I got when I was doing my job. It was, hey, how's Lisa? How are the girls? How's your work-life balance? Are you traveling too much? Do you need to cut back? Do you need to spend more time at home? Always checking in just to see how, because at that time I had a young family. And so it was always checking in with me to see how I was doing, how my family was doing. Many times I would sit down with, either one of them, and I felt like, if we had an hour meeting, we didn't start talking about work till 15 minutes into the meeting because they wanted to know, how am I doing personally? And so I think it taught me, I guess, some lessons early on about just the importance of really getting to know your people, spending time with your people, showing care. And so for me, those are the things that come to my mind when I think about leadership and those that have had an impact on me.
Leaders leaving an imprint on us. When you think about those people you mentioned, and maybe others you didn't mention, how would you articulate, or if I asked you to define, like what's Sean's leadership style?
Well, I think I wish some of my team were here. You could ask them that to see if they could affirm what I'm getting ready to say. But I think that my leadership style is to lead with care. I think that I truly do care about the people that are on my team. I care about the people that work for me. And honestly, I don't just care about their work results. I literally care about them as a person. And I've used the term before. I try to spend time with my people and have time be transformative versus just transactional. And I use the old adage often of people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I think I try to lead with care. I try to lead with relationship. I do try to get to know my team more and beyond just them and their job responsibility. I mean, I really honestly do try to seek to know and understand if they're willing to share and want to share. They certainly don't have to, but I want to try to create a culture and create an environment where there's trust so people will share. But I mean, if I can be a part of helping them achieve their goals and their dreams and their wants and their desires, then I want to try to find a way to do that. And I want to be able to coach and develop, certainly on the work side. But I think that really is who I am. And I think those earlier examples that I mentioned, growing up as well as kind of early in my work life and work career, has just kind of charted a path for me where I do believe people are our most important assets from an organizational standpoint. And if they're our most important assets, then we need to make sure that we're spending most of our time focused there.
When you think about your own leadership journey, how have you had to adapt your leadership style based on the different needs of your team or the organization through the years?
From the career progression standpoint, my role has changed certainly over the 24 years that I've been with Chick-fil-A. And some of those early roles were kind of individual performer, right? So I had a role where my responsibility was to go find real estate deals and go find opportunities of where to put in place Chick-fil-A, right? So I had these goals and results that I needed to achieve and wanted to achieve that were certainly part of my performance expectations. And so there was a lot of things in early on that was more about me. And I think as I was given more responsibility, as my roles changed, when I became a people leader, I still had goals, but the role evolved into more of a team. And how do I, create a team? How do I lead a team? How do I coach a team? And honestly, over time, the focus of my responsibility became more about others and less about me. And again, I still have goals and I still have things that I have to achieve, but I think becoming more selflessness versus selfishness has been something that I've really kind of focused on and thought a lot about over time. And certainly that is applicable with any team, with any relationship, whether it be work or family or whatever it is. But just the older I've gotten, the more tenure I've had, it's just been probably just the evolution has been more about others and less about me. How can I serve, and influence and those kind of things have been really become kind of more of my focus. But part of that evolution too is spending time with people, learning and growing and developing, whether it's books or podcasts or coaching. You mentioned us getting to spend some time together. I mean, I've valued and appreciated our time together and the coaching that you are doing with me and benefiting me. That's a result of me wanting to continue to grow and develop and learn. And then you being willing to pour into me and help me. So, seeking other people's perspective, seeking feedback, seeking coaching. Honestly, I don't know naturally if we're all really good at this, but asking for help. I know sometimes I struggle with that. I think I can do things on my own and I push it to the point where I realize I can't. And so I've tried to just be more self-aware of really being in a position of asking help from others sooner. And again, that can take a lot of forms too. That everybody struggles, right? And everybody has issues. We learn and we grow. I think the more we realize we we do need help. The challenge is actually taking that step to actually ask for it. And so I think those are some things that just I've thought about and tried to learn and grow from over time.
When you have a posture of care and supporting others and pouring out, you talked about people pouring into you, but I know you well enough to know that you do that for other people. We all don't have an unlimited tank, right? Emotionally,
right.
And physically, it is almost more challenging the more tenured you are or the longer you've been in leadership to ask for help or to get to a spot to where you're like, man, you know what? I might need some additional support, because everyone else sees you as you got the answer. Our resumes can work against us in that way. Like at this point, to say that I need help, is that an indictment on my level of leadership?
One word that comes to mind that I think is also important for a leader is vulnerability. And the majority of the time, there's this perspective and aspect of, your folks may think, hey, you're my boss, you have the answers. There's that aspect, but then there's also the aspect of a level of trust that you build, a level of being able to see themselves as maybe not alone when they hear the person that is leading them to say, you know what, I need help, I struggle, I have hurts. So this aspect of vulnerability that you can have with your team, I think creates a level of trust. Because here's the thing, I mentioned that I'm continually trying to figure out, to be better at asking for help. The reason that I find myself in a position to ask for help is because I trust somebody and I trust certain people to be able to ask for that help. And so, for me, that's the culture that I try to create on my team and with my folks, is that I want my people to feel okay, feel comfortable, trust me enough to come to me and ask for help. And I think one of the ways that I do that is just being vulnerable myself.
Some personalities, they hear that and they're like, oh, that's like a breath of fresh air. Other people's guard goes up quick, right? Depends on your personality. And so navigating when and where and how vulnerable to be, I think, is a big leadership skill too. You've probably been in meetings and settings where people have overshared.
No doubt.
Makes it awkward.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
I've probably been one of those people.
As you wipe some tears away, it's like, it's
exactly. Yeah.
So there's, the settings where there's oversharing and then undersharing. Like, I don't want to follow a leader that's not giving me any vulnerability and they're more of a robot than a human. So calibrating that is like a delicate skill. How do you gauge how vulnerable to be? I hear you being committed to vulnerability, but how do you calibrate that?
I think the way that I try to discern what to share, when to share is through really truly ramping up the listening side of the equation. Because I certainly don't want to come across or overshare to where, I'm talking to just to talk, right? I think for me, that's where I go, is just to dial up the listening as much as possible. And then just try to use discernment on kind of what comes next. But it's a delicate balance to your point. And that's why I think it takes discernment, it takes judgment, which I think also are leadership qualities that need to be exercised as well.
And if you marry that with, you talked about care is one of the first qualities that you said you lead with, and maybe this is what I tell myself to keep me in a good headspace. But I do feel like if your people know they're cared and they're properly being poured into, you don't have to be perfect at calibrating that. If they're being well taken care of and the intent there, and they know your heart, and you've been vulnerable enough and been real with them enough, there's some grace with that. Sometimes I might have been the one that's overshared or undershared, but if that culture is there of care and transparency, hopefully I'm leading people in a way to where if they do need something different from me, they feel comfortable and I'm approachable enough to hear that. I've talked about this language before, but it's I want to say this to the listeners. If I don't want to show the team that I'm bleeding out And that would be kind of that oversharing. But I do want to show them enough that I'm flesh and blood. It's like I want to show them that I am human, that I do have struggles, that I do have challenges, that I think just that language might be helpful for the people listening. Are you presenting like you're bleeding out? Are you giving your people enough to let them know that you're flesh and blood? Might be an interesting spectrum to kind of plot yourself to maybe help you with the next step.
No, I think that's a good word, Derek. And for me personally, I mean, I'm an emotional guy. It's who I am. The people that are around me and spend a lot of time with me have heard me say, I'm a Hallmark commercial crier. That's just who I am by nature. And sometimes I think, I can certainly get emotional in some situations. And a lot of time it's when, I know that people are struggling or people are hurting or something's happened and, it just hits me. I don't mind sharing those emotions. Sometimes I can't help sharing those emotions, but I definitely try to make sure that I'm balanced in, sometimes less is more. Less being more can still be in a position of still sharing, right? So you can say, hey, I'm hurting. I just need some thoughts from you today, right? I think one of the things that I didn't mention that I think is really, really important for a leader, for a people leader, is just availability. If your person needs an answer from you on something work related, if your person needs to talk to you about a personal situation or whatever it may be, if you're not available, they can't get something off their chest or their mind or something they're dealing with or struggling with or need help with or whatever. And so, along those lines of kind of leadership qualities, leadership traits, et cetera, another one I think that is really, really important is availability. And, my team knows I have an open door policy and an open phone line policy. And if there's a need, they can call, period. And doesn't mean I can always stay on the phone for a long time but they can reach me and I'm available no matter what.
This podcast, it aims to bridge mental health and leadership in normalize conversations and not try to, there's definitely a vulnerability piece and almost an assumption that say we do all have stuff going on. We do
Right.
all have challenges and struggles, and the whole premise of this is because I find myself in so many conversations with leaders and they feel like they have to present strong all the time. And it's just like, no, I just present authentic and then kind of go from there. But you got to have that vulnerability piece. And so from a mental well-being side of things, and I know that one of the key stressors that people in general have is workplace stress. And so, how do you make sure that you are not only physically fit, but mentally fit as well when it comes to just the mental side of things?
Great question, and absolutely agree. That's essential. You asked me about golf earlier, right? As I said, I really do truly try to use golf today as a place to just get out and have fun, clear my head, decompress, unplug, and enjoy, nature and try to enjoy, chasing and hitting a little white ball around. But I think having accountability partners is one. Having those trusted advisors, those people that you can share with. I think having different outlets to where you can decompress. My goodness, I tell people, on my team, take your vacation. Don't let it carry over. Don't let it build up. Take your vacation. You earned it. You need the time. Take it. If I kind of drill down a little more, for me personally, sometimes what happens to me when I get there is what I would call this endless pursuit of more. And what I've found is typically very seldom yields satisfaction, right? Because if you're always wanting more, always trying to get more, gain more, to me, it's a long trail of ultimate disappointment. Because what happens is you don't ever stop to be able to celebrate the successes. And sometimes from that headspace, that positive mental stuff, you need to celebrate accomplishments, and you need to celebrate what you've done or your team's done. If you're constantly pursuing the next thing, I just think it leads to a lot of just disappointment. And that's just me speaking personally. Enjoy the present as much as possible. Celebrate the present, celebrate the accomplishments. I think that's where a lot of times busyness comes from for me, that I've watched happen, over the past several years, is just seeing how fast time flies. My girl's graduating from college, and it's like, how did that happen? And then, I've got one that's close to graduating from college. I've got one that just got married, and it's like, how did that happen? And, sometimes this endless pursuit of more and this busyness aspect can also put you in a place where you miss a lot, and you don't stop to hold on to some of those things that are honestly most important. And then for me, again, just personally, I try to really think about and focus on my why. Like, why is it that I'm showing up for work, outside of just that I need a job and I need a paycheck to live, but like, what's my why and what's my purpose? With my role, I get the opportunity to influence communities. When we bring a new restaurant into a community, we get an opportunity to be a positive influence. We get the opportunity to serve others. Those things to me, when I think about some of the hurts that maybe I've experienced, I also try to think about the perspective I have of, well, yeah, that hurt, but I get to do this. And this is what, my focus is. And that in itself can change a mindset. That in itself can help from a mental fragility standpoint, if you will. The hurts still hurt, but they don't hurt as bad when you know your why and you know that what you're doing is for a greater purpose.
All of us are very susceptible to worrying about what's around the corner. Oftentimes, the thing around the corner never is an actual thing. The only thing that actually happens is that it robbed us of the moment we were worrying about what was around the corner. I got a text, hey, can you call me? And I immediately went to worst case scenario. I called them and they just wanted to ask me out to dinner or whatever. So many things are competing for our presence and our focus and our attention. Being present and understanding our why go hand in hand. When you are with your kids or you're with a leader, like in a business setting, and you're talking to them, it's so easy to think about, well, I've got 2 more meetings right after this one, and your mind can drift into that space while you have someone right across from you who may have a legitimate need or concern, or you can serve them in some way. And so the power of presence, there's so much wisdom in that, Sean, and that I think every person, and I don't have a way to judge that, but I can't imagine everybody doesn't struggle with that. Put the phone in the hand, and even more of an issue, getting distracted with things, is the presence and the why. And the other thing that comes to mind, it is the my why doesn't have to make sense to Sean. Sean's why doesn't have to make sense to Derek, but Sean's why needs to make sense to Sean. Sean needs to have a why. Generate a why and make it authentic and true to you. And that's going to steer you in a lot of really good places and steer you away from, I think, missing out on moments with your family, missing with people. It's like, in this moment, my why is I want to be remembered as the best dad possible, or the best boss possible, or someone who not only said that they cared, but they were with me when they were with me. I've been guilty of not doing that. Probably most of the listeners were in solidarity there. But I think there's so much wisdom, Sean, and I thank you for bringing those topics up of being present, having a why. Those are beautiful aspirations that I think all of us should strive for.
I think you just said it best. They're aspirations and striving for, because, I do believe we all struggle with it, and I don't believe we're ever going to perfect it. But the pursuit of it can certainly kind of help keep us somewhat on track.
When you think about the next season of your own leadership and influence, what excites you most about that?
Well, I can say this. I'm certainly on the downhill slide of from a work perspective, career, professional perspective. I've certainly got less time than I've put in left. And I think the thing that I'm focused on and that I'm looking most forward to is, number one, watching those that either I've led before, I have relationships with currently on my team, looking forward to just watching them grow and develop looking forward to seeing the opportunities that they get. Honestly, I get excited to just the opportunities that people that I know and care about are going to get, because, I'm fortunate to work for a company with just amazing people across the entire organization. I'm proud to call every one of them colleagues, and honestly, the leadership caliber across our business is so strong. But there's a lot of opportunity for a lot of people going into the future, and I'd like to say that for some people that those will happen too. Maybe I've played a part in that, but I honestly want to continue to look for ways to continue to play a part in that. I've made a lot of mistakes along the way, learned from hopefully most of them, and just being able to kind of share that perspective with those that are new in the business, early in the business. I think that's what excites me. I still have a lot of drive. I'm very competitive. I still have the will to win, and the desire to win. And so I'm certainly not done there. I think a lot of the things that we've talked about today, somebody listening may think, he's a softie, or, these are all kind of like these soft subjects that either resonate or don't resonate with some people, right? But I'm just as competitive, and I have just as much of a will to win as I am kind of soft and, maybe tenderhearted, if you will. And so, yeah, I still look forward to finding more opportunities for Chick-fil-A restaurants across the country to be able to satisfy guests and kind of meet people where they are. But I do think that at the end of the day, I just look forward probably most to coaching and developing and influencing other people.
The qualities that you're talking about that are perceived as soft, I know a lot of really strong leaders that are highly productive and get a lot of results, but you don't have to neglect the relational soft things to do it. So, Sean, I know we've talked about care, we've talked about vulnerability, approachability. Any other key ingredients from your perspective that make up a healthy culture for a team?
Derek, one thing I would add is the element of feedback. I think as a leader, I believe it's really important that we remain open to receiving feedback. It's the way we grow, it's the way we get better. But receiving feedback well, but also as a leader, my encouragement, my challenge would be don't withhold feedback from your team and from your people. Honestly, feedback is like gold. Feedback is a gift. And certainly if it's delivered in the right way, certainly has a high degree of potential to being received the right way as well. But I've always found that feedback is extremely valuable, and it's a gift. And so as a leader, when you think about your teams, just think about it in that way, that I'm giving my team, my people, I'm literally giving them a gift. And I can share an example where I've had an experience where honestly feedback that I was supposed to have been given hadn't been given to me, and it needed to be, honestly. Certainly there was maybe some blind spots on my side, but that feedback didn't make its way to me. Yet there were conversations about me based on this that were happening that I didn't know were happening, and I didn't know that I needed to, maybe make some changes until I had a bold leader come to me and actually give me the feedback. And number one, I was grateful for it from that leader. But number two, honestly, there was a little bit of me that was not happy that I hadn't gotten it before. Felt like I had kind of been robbed, if you will, of that gift. But I had a choice in that moment when I was given that feedback that I could receive it and I could own it, and then I could have a good attitude about doing something about it, or I could kind of stay in a position of frustration and anger and being upset that either one, I didn't agree with it, or, wouldn't accept it, or that, this should have been told to me sooner. But what good is that going to do me, honestly? And so the other piece, I guess, that I would end with is I think attitude is everything. And so in that moment, I had a personal choice, and I chose to try to have a good attitude about it and try to receive the feedback well and try to honestly do something about it. And I can say that as I now look back on that situation, I'm glad I chose that because I do think it's paid great dividends.
As we wrap things up, I'd love to give you an opportunity to share any kind of insights of things you've been thinking about or something that you would be, that you would want to leave us with.
Well, once again, Derek, I appreciate the time today. I'm honored to be asked to be on. I think I would leave you with the value of relationships because life is too hard to go it alone.